What's your proudest fart? Not me, but someone in my biology class ripped a true banger out in the middle of class. It had both tone and sustain. As it finished resonating through the large auditorium, the lecturer looked up from the overhead projector, this is an old story, and said, "Well, I'm glad everyone is so interested in today's material. That has got to be someone's proudest fart." And now I have actual awards pertaining to my ass rumbles. Thanks so much everyone. Don't know if it's the same everywhere, but in the UK, after a colonoscopy they keep you in a recovery ward, multiple people on the ward, until they hear you fart so they know the air is moving through you. I did such a long, loud, rumbling fart that the nurse came in from the next room and said whoever did that wins fart of the year. Best one I've heard, was very impressed with my award. Oh hey, I had the same result once laying on my couch playing my Nintendo Switch. My cat was snuggling up to me and I let one rip. The sound scared my cat and he stood up doing that mouth thing they do, where it's slightly open with a dumb look on their face. Then he did the thing with his paw like he was burying his own feces. Then he got up and sat in another chair. The one my wife is most proud of me for is the dog was laying on my lap on the couch. Ripped one out, the dog gagged and had to go lay on the other side of the room. The one I like best is when we first started seeing each other, she admitted she was too scared to fart in front of me. One night, laying in bed, I had what I felt to be a silent guy sneak up on me. It sounded like a balloon having air let out and you pull the flap flat, the high squeaky trailing guy. I stopped the fart immediately. She asked if I farted, which I admitted to. She cackled with laughter, and I let the rest out. It was thunderous in nature. She stayed with me after that, but that moment was glorious. I was at the store one time near the meat coolers and let one off. The meat manager just happened to come out right then, and as he passed by me he smelled my awful fart and immediately gasped and started pulling and sniffing all the meat packages. My fart was so rank he thought one of the packages of meat rotted. I quickly departed to an empty aisle to start laughing, and as I was getting out I heard him calling to another employee to help him, saying, "I know one of these is bad but I can't find it." It took me several minutes to compose myself before I could finish shopping and get out of there. Haha, I have a similar story. When I was 16-18 I worked at a grocery store, mostly just evenings and Sunday mornings. One Sunday I was hungover with nasty beer farts. The store was quite busy so I had to keep the brown cloud bottled up, just further fermenting the farts. It seemed like there was a bit of a lull so I finally let mine escape. Just as I did, an old lady appeared from the end of the aisle and headed towards me to serve her. As I'm serving her, the smell is impossible to ignore. She notices the smell and picks up a pack of salmon and asked me if I thought it smelled off. I agree with her that it smells and offer to fetch a fresh pack for her, with the nasty smell following me as I went. My wife and I were at a concert once, very packed. We started to smell the worst fart I have ever smelled. Everyone around us was disgusted. People were yelling like what the fuck? Wife and I included. Everyone tried to get away from it. There was a hole in the middle of a packed crowd as people tried to escape it. Fast forward to that night. We're at our house getting ready for bed, brushing our teeth. She looks over at me and goes, "It was me." I'll never forget it. Proudest fart. In middle school math class I could feel one brewing. Asked the teacher if I could go to the restroom. Was promptly told number. A couple minutes later asked again to go to the restroom. This time the teacher relented and allowed me to leave. I'm penguin walking to the door, clenching my cheeks like my life depended on it. Then it came the loudest, raunchiest smelling fart I had up till that point or since. I promptly make my escape to the restroom, giving it a good 5+ minutes before making my return to the classroom. Rounding the corner into the hallway toward the classroom and my fellow classmates are all in the hallway. I get scolded by the teacher, class, and class continues. Well, the bell rings for everyone to go to their next period, and out into the hallway everyone filled. The classroom surrounding the one I was in all came running over asking if that was a fart. I walked around school proud the rest of the day. I got this. I got a phone call at night before heading to dinner saying I was flying to Florida in the morning. I said okay, I'm going to get hammered tonight. Went to a Japanese restaurant. Went home, packed and slammed beers knowing I was going to be on a flight and a hangover wasn't a big deal. Woke up, went to the airport, felt like shit, got to my gate and started feeling my stomach turn and turn and turn. Loaded the plane. It was full. Sat in my seat with my GF next to me, middle of the plane, and I had the window seat. I tell my GF I might have to shit and ask what I should do. She said hold it, of course she did. Meanwhile I feel pains and realize I have to release some pressure and try to sneak out a fart while people are boarding in hopes I don't shit. Well, I snuck one followed by a few more with no mess. The pressure kept building. In front of us was a woman with 2 kids. One about 5 and an infant in diapers. The pains got worse. I told my GF I'm sorry but I can't hold this fart in. I released the fury but was sitting so it wasn't loud. The smell was atrocious. The lady in front of us was looking around like WTF am I inhaling? Thinking it was her infant son she sniffed his diaper and realizing it wasn't him, she made eye contact with me and gave me the dirtiest look one could imagine. Needless to say the farts didn't stop for the 2-hour flight and when we were offloading the plane she actually said to me, "You need to learn a little self-control." I'll never forget that. Funny story is I have another story, the time I cleared out a bathroom at the airport but that's for another time. My buddy and I went to see X-Men 2 on opening day. I wasn't feeling great. The scene where Professor X freezes everyone in the museum, I farted practically as soon as the movie got silent and it went on for about 10+ seconds. It was loud as hell and with the theater being silent, everyone heard it. To make things even better, as soon as I was done, the one character said something like "What did you do?" My buddy was laughing so hard he had a C coming out his nose and people behind us said things like "That was vile, good God, what the hell is wrong with you?" Horrendous. I'm pretty sure we missed half the movie because every 5 minutes or so we started laughing again. I could not have timed that better if I tried. I knew a guy who got woken up in the middle of the night by his new girlfriend's farts. He said they were so bad he decided right then that he was dumping her, got out of bed and started getting his shit together to go home and never speak to her again. He bent down to put on his shoes and he rips a fart, realizes it was him that was cutting the nasty ones, and gets back into bed with her. They're married and have 4 kids together. I was in an elevator, early in the morning, had Taco Bell the night before, and was letting loose lethal silent gas every few minutes. The elevator was usually empty, and I had a particularly bad one-night trip. The door opens on my stop and 5 people who were some inspectors or some crap got in, and I got out. I was trying to walk quickly before they realized, and right as the door shut I heard one of them say "What the fuck?" I couldn't stop laughing the rest of the day. My freshman year of college, a bunch of friends and I went to my friend's house during winter break. We decided to watch all of the extended Lord of the Rings movies in one day. Once we finished the second movie we went out for Mexican food and came back to watch the third movie. About an hour in I had to fart, but I held it in because I was sitting next to my girlfriend. I held it in for the entire duration of the movie, and I somehow ended up forgetting about it. Once the movie ended we kind of lounged around, and I ended up standing in front of a drum set. Suddenly I felt an immense and intense pressure in my guts, but my girlfriend had gone to the bathroom so I decided to just let loose for my guy friends. What came out was quite possibly the Balrog in gaseous form. 7 full seconds long, uninterrupted, vibrations so hard that the whole house shook, and amplified by the bass drum. Truly it was a masterpiece that the entire house heard, and caused my friend's parents and my girlfriend to run downstairs and ask what the hell just happened. Dr. We have barred the gates, but cannot hold them for long. The ground shakes. Drums in the deep. Other half was already in bed asleep. Got into bed and let out a near silent 10-second long fart. I say near silent as it made a clear, low hissing sound as it left me. I could feel the heat leaving my rectum followed by a sharp, sour sulfurous smell that made me heave. Knowing it was that bad, I got comfy in bed. Within seconds my partner had sat upright. "What is that smell? You're disgusting." I'd woken her up with the smell of a fart. Still proud 3 years later. When I was in the army, I was standing in the cough with a few other people. I had just eaten Wingstop for lunch and I let one rip. It was silent but it was hot coming out. I knew it was going to be bad. About 5 seconds later my friend looked at me and started to gag and ask if it was me. People were clearing the room trying not to throw up. Then my 1SG comes out and walked directly through it. He started freaking out, yelling who it was, and I of course didn't say anything because no one expects the only female to be the culprit. He then held us all there and lectures us that whoever it was needs to go to the doctor because that was 100% not normal and clearly something died. I was proud of that one. 7 years later my friends still give me crap for it. Not mine, but my grandma's. Back in 2009, me, my grandmother, cousin and granddad were all making each other laugh. I had a stereo cassette recorder running recording the moment, as I did commonly back then. So eventually the laughing was over and my grandma goes to make a cup of tea. Tape recorder still running on the kitchen side. My grandma lets out a massive fart. Let's just say that the laughing that ensued assured us and my grandma that she didn't have a dodgy ticker. Cue the next 30 minutes of me trying to get my nan to confess on tape. She would only admit it years later at a family do when I played it. My granddad died only very recently, and it is one of the many recordings I have of them both in full health, and it is hilarious. Filled up a whole 90-minute tape that evening. Best yet, as the recording was in stereo and of good quality, you can put on headphones as though you were there. I had just finished teaching a class. My students leave. My stomach had this empty yet painfully somehow full feeling and I just decided to let it rip once the studio emptied. It felt like an eternity, and I wanna say was at least a solid 9-10 second continuous blast of a fart that felt almost spiritually uplifting. I promptly went home and fell right asleep shortly after. A few years ago, wife and I were leaving an event with large crowds and long lines. Multiple people wanted to get out. We were slowly walking along and I let out a sudden and particularly putrid one. The guy behind me gags and says something along the lines of "fuck, someone farted." Wife silently mouths, "Was that you?" And I smile and she nods. A few minutes pass. Same dude says, "Bro, that wasn't a fart. Someone shed their pants. It still smells." Ugh, fuck. I feel like I ate it. I had to bite my lip to keep from bursting out laughing and exposing myself. He complained about it for at least another 5-10 minutes. I'll never know if he knew it was me, but I'll always remember the day I made someone eat my poopy fart. A couple. When I was in 2nd grade in music class, the teacher stepped out of the room for a minute and we sat quietly in a circle on those elementary school plastic chairs. I let out a loud one and everyone was like, "You." I then yelled, "Hey, it's nature." Then everyone laughed. My friend who was there reminds me of it to this day. I had a sleepover at this same friend's house, probably 4th grade by this time, and we slept downstairs on his couches. As soon we woke up I let one go, a huge long one, and a minute later his mom upstairs yells down, "What was that?" We laughed on and off all day about it. My corgi Stella was having problems, and due to how she was laying down, I was getting a constant stream of farts right to my face. So when the time came I stood up and fired off the biggest, loudest, squishiest fart I've ever had right into her face. It was so bad I'm shocked Peta didn't roll up. Little Stella just bared her teeth and barked at me for the next 5 minutes or so. She was pissed, probably unrelated, but she hasn't farted on me since. Now what I am about to tell you is akin to a tall tale. Summer late 90s, my cousin and I were having a sleepover. After watching Forrest Gump we headed to bed. I wasn't feeling too good at the time and my cousin likes to cook, so we start talking about food. He asks me, "What do you want for breakfast tomorrow?" As I lay writhing in pain on the top bunk, probably from consuming too many sweets, I struggle to think of what I would want for breakfast, so I let out a groan and considered my options of jumping down to use the bathroom. Then it came without warning, the longest, loudest and cleanest. Yeah, I checked, fart I've ever done. This wasn't some piddly little toot for death and glory, it said as it rode out of my derriere. The horn of Helmhammer hand sounded for what felt like an eternity, 10 seconds maybe longer, and the bunk bed began to shake. An earthquake you might think. Perhaps riders from the east coming to save us. It felt like my soul was exiting my body and I was shriveling away to dust, but was promptly reconstituted and felt like $1,000,000 when I was finished. We laughed and were in shock by how amazing this fart was, and every now and again this story will come up between us. We had French toast for breakfast. Have my novel of a fart story. Enjoy. My little sister and I had decided to risk our lives and go out shopping the day after Thanksgiving. We had each spent the day before stuffing our faces and unbuttoning our pants at 2 Thanksgiving dinners, one our families and one at our respective in-laws' families. The plan was to get up and move around the next day so we could unblock our colons. My colon was union and was protesting working overtime with hot-winded speeches. That's understated. Satan had taken up residence in my lower body and I had given him permission with that extra piece of pie drenched in whipped cream. Sis ... and rightly so ... was becoming exasperated with me, but I didn't see what I could do about the situation besides keep the windows down in the car. Holding it in? Could you hold in, Satan? I didn't think so. We made it to Kmart where they were having a sale on Game Boys. It took all my effort to keep things to myself and I failed in the CD aisle. Rushing away I see a teenage girl wrinkle her nose and then scream, "Mom, not again." It's nice to know you aren't alone. We make our way through a few more stores. I'm clenching so hard that I'm walking funny. Poor sis ... She's a good soul for putting up with my abuse. At the end of our trip we get to Big Lots. Christmas toy sales abound. The store wasn't especially crowded compared to everywhere else, so we decided to take our time. We'd stop with our cart in front of us to look at a toy. A woman with her own cart would walk up, move our cart about 3 feet while we were standing right next to it and put her own cart in its place. She'd scoot her body over and stand shoulder to shoulder with us. The woman did this repeatedly as we moved about the store. You can't let other shoppers get at the good crap before you. Muttering, sis walked off to get something, leaving me with the cart and this insane woman. I moved to yet another toy aisle, stop, park and look. She follows and does the predictable. I stand next to her and continue looking at Me Elmo. We are the only 2 shoppers in the entire area of that store and I felt like teaching her a lesson about personal space. I unclench and I fart. Smiling at her, I take my cart and leave her with it. Did she follow me? No. The rest of the shopping trip is peaceful and insane woman free. Normally I wouldn't think of being so crass. I'm not a pinky in the air proper type of girl, but I do try not to pass when in public places. This woman deserved it. High school basketball tournament championship. At halftime, we had a coach that was real intense and was going at us, slapping the whiteboard. While we sat on our metal lockers, they had metal seats. While coach is yelling, I rattle those lockers with a fart that could have shown up on a Richter scale. Coach stops in his tracks and stares at me flabbergasted. Well, I mean damn you took it out of me alright go warm up. And he just walks out. All the while my teammates were hyperventilating from laughing. My boyfriend and I were in bed one morning and he was still sleeping. I had the urge to fart, but he had his crotch pressed to my ass. I just said fuck it and let it go. It was explosive. I turned to look over my shoulder and my boyfriend's eyes were wide open with disbelief. The only thing he said was what the fuck? Before the smell hit him and he literally fell out of bed gagging. He still hasn't let me live it down. It's probably been over a year now. I did something mean to my little brother when we were 12 and 8 respectively, like brothers do. He threatened to tell our mom and embellish to get me in more trouble. I had to get to her first. A foot race began and I had a step or 2 on him. We got to the stairs and halfway up with every step I took a hot fart popped out. about 8 in total. I got to the top of the stairs and rounded the corner into the hall and realized that his stomping steps were gone. Looked down the stairs and he's sitting there lightly crying where the war crime had taken place. He turned to me shakily and said only a butthole would do that. I chuckled and replied, "Yup, that's how farts work." He slowly cracked a grin and we both laughed about it until our sides hurt. Later that evening he still ratted on me and included the gassing. I got grounded for a week. Totally worth it. And to anyone who might wonder, we've been best friends once we reached our upper teens. Edited for clarity.